For athletes, 2020 has been canceled. Recreational athletic events are either calling it off outright or trying to push their events back to fall, and honestly, I don't think that's going to happen. So we can either chalk up the year as a complete wash and do no events, or we can go virtual. Now, when you mention virtual racing to a cyclist, they're probably going to talk about Zwift, but if you talk to a runner, they're going to talk about virtual running events. The concept is pretty basic. You pay an entry fee, you run the distance wherever and whenever you want, you upload your results, and you get some kind of physical reward for it. Some even offer longer distances designed to be run in segments over a series of days or weeks and sometimes months. And if you look online, there are companies that do nothing but offer virtual running races, so that got me thinking, is there something to this? So I set out to do 3 challenges, a 1 month, a 1 week, and a 1 day virtual race, and compare the experiences. The first challenge was to actually find virtual races for cyclists because there really aren't many, but after a while and some creative thinking, I managed to fill all the criteria that I wanted. And one more thing, I bought all these races with my own money. I am not being compensated in any way for this video. I'm under no obligation to be nice to anyone. And these are not reviews of each service. This is more like a what I found. Comment down below if you want me to do full reviews on all of these. Okay, so let's dive in. For my month-long challenge, I had a couple of choices. One is called Pedal for the Medal, and that seemed a touch on the nose. There's one other month-long grinder challenge that I found, but those really didn't interest me because I'm doing this in Wisconsin in April. And if the weather turned bad, I would miss a hard end-of-the-month deadline goal through no fault of my own. So instead, I chose the Conqueror's 280-mile Grand Canyon Challenge for my 1-month challenge. The first thing to mention, the Conqueror does not call what they do races, they are missions. They use a phone app which collects all of your data into one place, and it encourages you on your mission with easy to understand graphics. I set up most of my info on the webpage though, because I'm not much of a phone guy. Now what I found is that it was a motivator, but in an MMO grind kind of way. Meaning that I was thinking in terms of optimal strats to get my miles in over the full month. Stuff like using a flat mile parking lot velodrome, which is kind of like power leveling. Because of this strategy, I ended up finishing my challenge in 3 weeks instead of the planned 4 weeks, and it really wasn't all that fun, but that's on me because it was a self-imposed deadline, not on them. And my reward? It was a virtual certificate of completion and a physical medal. And this thing's pretty hefty too. It reminds me of the belt buckles that ultramarathoners get at the end of a 100-mile race. Now my second challenge was a 1-week challenge. And there weren't many choices as far as companies that offer a good 1-week distance for cyclists. I ended up going to the company called YesFit. Now this company does call their event races, and they offer a lot of distances designed to be segmented out over several days or weeks. And like the Conqueror, they also have a phone app, which pretty much has the same function. And even though I had eyed their 50-mile Thor race as my 1-day ride, I decided to try out their Dragons race as my 1-week challenge instead. Having a 1-week crunch time to do a little over 100 miles forced me to do a lot of math and a lot of micromanaging on a day-to-day basis to keep the timetable. I was riding in some pretty bad weather conditions when that was kind of stress-inducing. But again, that was on me because it was a 1-week timetable that was self-imposed. But I did manage to knock it out in 7 days, but I had the same enjoyment problem I had with my 1-month challenge. My reward for this is probably the chunkiest medal that I will ever earn. I mean, this thing's appropriately blingy for smog. I mean, it's a beautiful work of art. Even the ribbon looks nice. I'm impressed. I found this. Okay, so it's for runners and it's a 19K, which is a little less than 12 miles, but honestly, I love the medal so much, I figured it was worth asking. So I wrote to the virtual run challenge and I asked them if I could do it on my bike as 19 miles instead, and to my surprise, they said yes. So I paid my entry fee and I planned this one for May 1st. The virtual run worked a little differently than the other companies. When I signed up, I opted to have everything sent to me in advance, and they sent me a race bib to wear on my ride, an embroidered patch, and a medal, so I'd have that when I finished. This was the style that I found the most enjoyable because it was kind of like a real sportive ride, with pinning a number on and having a finish medal waiting for me at the finish line, which also happened to be my house, so that worked out pretty cool. Now, the actual racing is just half the story. What makes these things work in a virtual sense is the online community that each series creates on Facebook. I can't say that I'm a fan though. Frankly, I'm finding that a lot of these groups are insufferably positive to the point of being condescending, but if that's your jam, have at it. Of note, virtual runners really get into the virtual racing. They'll wear their race bib numbers, they'll draw chalk lines on the trail for their finish lines, and they'll do medal selfies at the end of it for the gram, and I'm all for this. But seeing as they leave their finish lines right there on the trail, I mean, it'd just be rude to not use it. So let's talk money. Each virtual race costs about $25 to $35, and this usually only covers the medals and the shipping. Some, like Virtual Run, also included a physical bib. Other races offer a virtual one that you can print out at home if you want. And if you want specific event shirts or things similar like that, then those are almost always upcharges, but almost every event is a medal only. So with that in mind, is it worth it? Well, it depends on what kind of person you are. Cycling culture isn't really one of being rewarded for participation, so getting a medal for riding 19 miles is going to rub some riders the wrong way, especially if you did it literally from your front door and you didn't at least travel somewhere cool to do it. So to a lot of riders, that's just throwing money to get bling. However, what these companies do sell is motivation. I noticed a lot of YesFit people would purchase a dozen races, chain them together, and then knock them out one by one so they could probably increase their medal count. And yeah, I admit I did 2 of their races because I love the medal design, so I get that too. But for people who need a consistent reward-style motivation to get out and pound the pavement, it is very worth it. Personally, I think my approach to these are going to be event day style events because that's what I personally enjoyed the most, but you know you best. If the idea of chaining dozens of distances together and using them to get all summer motivation medals to keep riding, and if that works for you, great. Get out there and go do it, that's the important thing. I do get a feeling, though, that as 2020 rolls forward, more virtual run companies are going to see the cycling world desire stuff like this and start offering their services to the riders. Let riders have that special day, pin on a number, do that special ride. Nothing can replace the pageantry of the in-person event, but in light of a global pandemic, this might be the next best thing in the short term. Stay safe, everyone.